nature of the city of Stone is complete selfishness. Like, not just, it says in Pirkei Avos, it's like, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. But to the point of like, even the idea of somebody giving to another was just completely, to them, that was like, just, it was so the antithesis of what Stone is. So when Hashem destroys the city, and he says to go and not look back, and Rashi tells us, really, because were they really that much more worthy of being saved? They weren't such great people either, but they were saving the merit of Avraham Avinu, so they shouldn't see what's happening to them. And then on a deeper level, though, it's like Stone represents, there's a part in all of us that is this selfishness, right? That is, it's not complete, obviously, like we're Yidden with a godly soul, and even most people that aren't Yidden are good people that care about other people, Baruch Hashem. But this nature, this selfish nature, this narcissistic nature. And so what was the thing with and sometimes we have things in our past that are very difficult, and we have to really examine ourselves, look at ourselves, and grow and walk away from that. And what was the thing with Lot's wife? And Hashem's like, don't turn back. Really, we have to focus on moving forward and growing past it and becoming who we need to become. And we take that saltiness, that bitterness with us, and like salt in a food, it enhances the food. It makes the food that much more rich and that much deeper. That's literally what salt does. These things of our past, these things that we're leaving, when we leave it in the right way and we grow from it, it actually makes our lives more rich, and it brings out the depth and the flavor in our lives. But what was her thing? She couldn't stop looking back. She looked back and she became that. She became the bitterness of the past, right? She became and in this particular talk that Rabbi Jacobson, he speaks about how it's like the guilt, right? We can't leave just, okay, we did something dumb in a moment. Now we recognize that, and we're going to grow from it and develop a better trait, develop something else. But getting stuck in the past, and when we get stuck in the past, we turn into the past. And she was so bitter that she literally became a pillar of salt. She became a physical manifestation of the bitterness of the past, and says she never reincarnated. She's still there. I've actually never seen it near the Dead Sea, but they say she's still there. It looks like the shape of a woman that's still there by the Dead Sea. I don't know if anybody's seen it. So this is like, and this is what we read today in the Chumash, is this idea, this story, this actual story, but it's like an idea we could all take with us, is we don't want to like to become richer from our lives and our experiences, and even our mistakes, right? We make mistakes and we move on, and they make us grow and they make us richer. But when we become obsessed with it, or when we become bogged down by guilt and we can't move forward and we can't move into the next moment, we get stuck in that last moment. We don't want to. That's what we become. We kind of become what we're focused on. And she was so focused on the bitterness that she literally became a physical pillar of bitterness. But at the same time, we always have salt on our Shabbos table, right? A table needs to have salt on it, right? Because it is an important element for us to always take with us, right? This whole story is also very connected to why we have salt. It's like we're elevating something, right? So it's like the balance. We need a little bit, but it's not to overpower the whole thing. Nobody ever says like their main dish was the salt that they had in their food. They talk about the main food they ate, and the salt complements it, but it doesn't overpower it. So that was a really beautiful part. And last week in Torah Or, so this week's Torah Or is like an incredibly, very deep, very Kabbalistic Torah Or, and it goes through the Spheros in like a very deep way. It's mimer. It's a very fundamental mimer, and it's one you could actually spend a lot of time on. And there's many editions of it in English. I don't know if you have time and want to go into all the depths of it, because there's many notes on it, and it's really incredible. And the mimer of this week in Torah Or is Psach Eliyahu. So Psach Eliyahu is the opening of the Zohar, and it's actually, we say it, I think Sfardim might say it every day, I'm not sure, but Chabad, we read it before Mincha and Erev Shabbos. And Psach Eliyahu Antu Chad V'lo B'Chushvan says, so it's a description. It talks about the Spheros and Hashem. It's really thinking about godliness, right? Not God's essence, but when you talk about Elokus, it's godliness, and it speaks about like you're one, and on the numerical sense, meaning like. And then he goes on to list like and he speaks about Chachma and Bina and how Hashem contracts himself into the spheros to manifest a world. Okay, so how does this come up in this parsha? It's actually connected to the verse in this parsha where it says, Adina, it says, when Hashem says, I hear this cry coming, I'm going to go down and see what's happening. So the question is, why does Hashem need to go down? Like Hashem obviously knew that what was happening was like Hashem's all knowing, like he obviously knows what was happening, who's screaming, and he doesn't need to, we have a lot of instances in it's like in Bereshit, Hashem's always like asking his heavenly court what to do, right? He's gathered but so what is this? Hashem needs to go down and see what's happening. He knows what's happening. So the Alter Rebbe finds it a great opportunity to explain like godliness. Let's understand godliness. Does Hashem himself need to go down? No. Let's understand how is the world created? Like what are the spheros? Like what are they? In essence, what are they? And how do we relate to them? And how we need them in order to relate. It's how it's a bridge between finite and infinite. Okay, so we'll get into it and we'll see how far we get. So Psach Eliyahu. So Eliyahu, and this is the words of it, Eliyahu opens this discourse, right? Antu Chad v'lo b'chushban, you are one, but not in the counted sense. Like you say, Vayhi Erev Vayibocher Yom Echad, like not Yom Rishon Echad, meaning that it's one, but not that there's a second one to it, right? Just one, like all-encompassing singular one. Antu Dabikas Asar Tikunin, right? You are he that brought out 10 tikunin, right? Which are saying the 10 spheros. He called them tikunin, right? That you brought out 10 adornments, and we call them spheros, right? And so the word spheros, it's also the word spheros is interesting because on one hand, lisaper or mispar means a number, and a number is a very limited entity. It's exact and it's limited, and it's one in a series of other numbers. Or it could be from the word sapiros or bahiros, which would mean brilliance and shining and something that's like really above, something that's above limitations. So the spheros, even just the name spheros tells us that they're this bridge. They have this limited aspect to them, and connect to the word mispar, like they're a number, like, and the word sapir in the shininess and the heroes in their brilliance, that they're something that is telling us clearly that they're above and they're unlimited at the same time. Okay. I lost my page. Okay. Okay. So lahavin inyan zeh lama nikra use spheros b'shem tikunin sarich lahaktim be'er inyan mahus hanefesh. So to understand why we call the spheros tikunin, why we call them, and this word comes from an Onkelos translation, like this connection is made of this word tikunin, how we're gonna describe it as jewelry or adornment. So to understand why we're calling them jewelry versus what we know we call the garments of the soul, we say garments are thought, speech, and action, right? We don't say that my chachma isn't a garment of the soul, but we're going to understand why are we calling it, it's like jewelry of the soul. Because is it the soul itself? Like it's jewelry of the soul. We're going to understand the difference between what a garment does for the body and what does jewelry do for the person, like it decorates the person, right? So, so we have to first explain the nature of the soul itself, right? We're just getting into tiny little things, no big deal. Let's just understand what a soul is, right? Or pashut bli his right? The soul itself is really just a simple light, and it's not divided into sechel and midos, right? The soul itself, as it is itself, is just, it doesn't. It's not, we say like sechel midos, that's like once it's within a limited context, we're talking about the body and how it functions, but we're not saying, but the soul itself is just simple unity, a simple, pure light. The sechel midos shela hen bechinas levushin lanefesh. And so we're going to say, and there's like a little chart I can actually put up on the thing to understand, because we're going to understand it on like different levels. So we could say the sechel and the midos, like those are kind of like garments of the soul. Shenefesh yesh la sechel midos, aval einan malchus va'atzmius hanefesh, right? The soul has sechel midos, but it's not really, that's not the essence of the soul. Ela shehen nikrain b'shem tikunin she'hanefesh mistakenes u'mislabesh behem, but they're called like adornments that the soul is it's really beautified and expressed to them. So what's the difference? When I wear a garment, we can wear a pretty garment and we are covering ourselves up, right? There's a thing of sneas, right? In the garment we wear. We are revealing something deeper. We're revealing something deeper in ourselves because we're kind of getting rid of a distraction. Like Adam and Chava didn't need to wear clothes because there wasn't that sort of distraction. They didn't need to cover themselves up. Nowadays, we put on a garment because I'm covering myself up, and it might be that I'm revealing some other part of myself, but really the purpose of the garment is to cover myself up. And even if I think practically, like a coat, like I'm physically protecting myself from the external elements. When I'm wearing jewelry, I'm not covering something else. I'm just highlighting and emphasizing what is there. Like I'm putting it on my ear, like I'm putting it on because I'm revealing the beauty of what is actually there. So I'm not really covering up what's there, but it's revealing what is actually there. So versus a garment, that a garment does conceal. We do say that a garment conceals it for the ultimate purpose of revelation, where a jewelry actually is really to adorn, to beautify, to decorate, and to show off, to highlight something, like makeup. You put makeup around your eyes because you want to show off the shape and the beauty, versus like, and it could be, yes, we want clothes that are fitting, but it's in a different kind of way than we, like when we're talking about something tikkunin, it specifically means something that's made for adornment and beautification. So the spheros are something that it's not that they're, because it's this interesting thing. When we talk about Hashem himself, we talk about Hashem himself. That's not even Orion Sof. We're not talking about a revelation of Hashem. We're talking about the essence of Hashem. We're talking about the spheros. What are they? And it's really like tools, vehicles that Hashem contracts himself into, but almost higher than that, in order to relate. It's like it's a bridge between creator and creation. And we experience our spheros within ourselves, and they are rooted in Hashem's spheros. It's not that like I'm actually necessarily experiencing Hashem's chesed as it is in himself, but my chesed is rooted in Hashem's chesed. The source of it is Hashem chesed. So we say, like, it says like an apple in this world, the sweetness of an apple. Why is it sweet? Because it's rooted in chesed of Atzilus. Like, so, and you could think of all ways, or somebody does something, you're like, that's a sweet person. Like, we experience sweetness and kindness in many different ways. And so we know we can point to where it's rooted in, but we're not saying that we understand like 100%, like Hashem. If he were to reveal his chesed as it is within itself, it would just kind of knock us out of the water and blow it away. But what it is an adornment, so to speak, of Atmas, that word. Could you say that? Like when Hashem contracts those, he's like dressing up Atmas, so that it can come down into limitations, so that it can create a world, so that it can relate with, so that we can have a relationship. And when you think about it, so let's think about it in ourselves. So there are parts of myself that are closer, that I think are like, it's like when you meet somebody and you feel like they don't see you, they just see an external part of you. That can sometimes feel really like offensive. Like you see somebody and they're like staring at something you're wearing, but they're not really noticing your face. You could feel like it makes you feel kind of self-conscious, like they're not really noticing you, right? So we have parts of ourselves that are external, like the clothes that we wear, right? And we have parts of ourselves that are also external. We have like our bodies, which are to the soul, they're external, but like they're obviously much closer to how we identify. Like I don't identify with the clothes I wear. I love my clothes, but I don't identify as it. My body, I identify with it much more. Like obviously I don't, but it can be changed. Like if somebody wants to change, somebody isn't like, it's harder, but like a person can change their physical body to some extent, right? Healthier, whatever they to some extent. Then you think about somebody's behaviors. There could be behavior that I don't like. No, I want to change that and I could be so identified, it's so natural to me, but I can change it. I can have, so that's something that's even deeper in myself than my clothes and maybe even my body, because a person could, change the shape of their body through any life circumstance, but their behaviors could still be the same. And if they want to change behavior, they could do that. But it's closer to how they identified, so it's much harder for them, obviously, to change. It's a more difficult process to change that. And the same thing, like, and our thoughts and our habits, and like and so they say a person's personality, that's much closer to who they are, right? Like, so when you're attracted to somebody, oftentimes we're attracted to their personality, right? We're not necessarily experiencing like the essence of who they are. We're experiencing their personality, which for a person to change their personality, that's already like, that's kind of huge. That's not just their behaviors. That's not their clothes. So there's many levels that we have, and we can say, okay, the essence of me, and then there's the essence of a person, which is the deepest part of who a person is. And we can say, like, that's the essential self. That was the same self from the moment it was born through its whole life. That's like what's always there. The spark of that person that's always there, the essential self. And no matter what changes externally, that essential core is still completely intact, right? But in order for us to, so we could say, okay, that's great, that's all intact. Who needs the other stuff, right? But that's not really true, because in order to relate to others, we need to have that personality, and we need to have those behaviors, and we need to have that clothed in other things. And it's really in order for us to have deep connection with others, is us having all of those layers. And sometimes we think, okay, well, I want to change something, let me just go to the deepest part first. Well, we can't really just go to the deepest part first, because like, okay, yeah, I'm going to just jump to that essential core. It doesn't really work that way. Sometimes we have to change something more external because it's more accessible to me, right? The more external it is, it actually, it means it's more accessible to me. Okay, I want to, and we notice it by sometimes like our behaviors and actions, they affect how we are, right? They affect how we feel about ourselves. Sometimes we want to feel more dignified. We can dress more dignified. We want to, whatever it is, or maybe we want to change a certain behavior. We can do that. And that actually, and how it doesn't affect the essential core. No, it actually is making a vessel in order to reveal for the essential core to come through in a more manifest way through changing those things. So through changing those external things, we're actually accessing that essential core more. It's not that we're changing it, but we're allowing conduit for it to be able to reveal itself, right? We're allowing for it to be revealed by changing those external things. And we need those things in order to have relationships with anything other than ourselves, because like there's no really way for like essence there it's enclosed with essence kind of transcends all those things, so it's in all of the levels, but obviously comes into all of those things in order for there to be the relationship. And so Hashem, we talk about like the Adina, the Hashem going down, it's talking about Hashem coming down, and we're explaining how he is contracting himself into the spheros, so to speak, in order to have this relationship with the world, and also and within us, same way, like we are contracted in many ways in order to relate to others, and also it's also a back and forth in our relationship with Hashem as well. So he said, so kamo hanefesh im haguf she'im hayos she'aguf hu lavush lenefesh mikol makom harei hanefesh mispa'eles b'mikrei haguf, right? So you could say that the soul exists within the body, but even though the body is just a garment of the soul is actually affected by the body. If I'm not feeling well and I'm overtired and I'm sick, like I can't really access in a manifest way the deepest parts of my soul. They're still there, but I can't really get to them, right? I can't really bring them to light. I can't access, right? If I have, and it could be the littlest thing, it could be like a splinter or a hangnail, but like the whole self is out of whack. So it's seen like something very, very external. And sometimes it's the most external things that we feel. If somebody, and it's spoken about in other places, if there's something, which is also why it's so important when we take care of ourselves and lift ourselves up, and we're taking care of this body, we're taking care of these external layers, we're napping when we need to, or eating when we need to, or drinking when we need to, we're actually allowing ourselves or facilitating for our soul to be able to show up more in its full glory, how it needs to. So yeah, my essential core is the same, whether I'm exhausted or whether I'm well fed or whether I'm whatever, whether I'm well rested, whatever it is, but it's not manifesting in the same way. I'm not able to get it. So as much as the body is just, we could say, a garment of the soul, but the external does affect the internal, right? It affects its ability to be able to manifest and to be able to actually show up to things. So when we take care, it says like a small hole in the soul, a small hole in the body is a big hole in the soul, right? When we're feeling off and when we're feeling like off and negative, like so much of the time, there's like if I'm feeling tired, I'll just like, obviously I'll just start getting cranky and I'll get defensive and I'll think people are out to get me or I'll think whatever. When I'm hungry, I'm just like mean. My husband's like, you need to eat something right now. Like, and is it because my essential core went away? No, it's because my body is affecting, like it's affecting how my nefesh is able to manifest itself, how I'm able to show up in the world at the time. And here, right, it's in Chassidus, right? Oh, that was on the wrong page. Okay, I lost the page. Okay, fine. Here we are. Okay, right, exactly. Here it's saying, right? So when the finger of the body gets a knock, right? The soul feels the pain. Like, who's feeling the pain? The body does have nerves and whatever to feel the pain, but it's really the soul in the body. There's a consciousness, there's an awareness in the body that is the one feeling the pain, like experiencing what that pain is, right? What there are like nerve reactions, but there is one that feels that pain, right? The kain masha oleb ratzon nefesh all eza ulab, right? And so, and also we say how the will, everything's connected to the will. Like how is, we talk about will being a makif faculty, right? Because when somebody wills something, they'll just do it. They don't have to contemplate, and it's not they're talking to another. If I want another person to get me something, I might have to explain this is what I need, or even tell them. If I want something, my feet just get up and get me there. There's no conversation happening within me to convince myself to do it. It's just going to happen without any thought. It's because it's everything's directly connected, right? These are proofs for the soul and the body, really, this deep connection. Right? The limbs follow the desire as soon as it comes. Right? When it arises in the will to do this specific desire, like the feet to walk. Right? Without like any thought needing to connect you don't need to think about it. Your brain doesn't have to think to connect it to the foot. It's actually happening above that. It's like the desire, and when you see a body, that's the whole thing with the nervous system, is that the nerves are within the whole body. There's a wiring system that it doesn't have to be not everything's a conversation, right? And that's the whole difference with Sovev. Actually, I was watching this video about outer space. It's fascinating. There is no, if you're upside down in outer space, you don't feel upside down, because there is no up and down in outer space. It's like igulim, like it's like the whole idea of igulim in Chassidus is that there's no beginning and there's no end, versus it being something that's like a line versus a kav. A line has a top and a bottom. The definition of a line is that there's a top and a bottom. It's like there's an order there, where a circle has no beginning and no end, right? So like in terms of when we talk about makif faculties, it's kind of something that can sort of jump the system. That sort of like jump the system. I don't know. In my mind, it connects to outer space, having no top and no bottom. You can be upside down. The blood won't rush through your head. You'll have no way of knowing. There's no up or down in outer space. It's another reality out there. She'im came haya she used manma. Okay, right. For if, right. So he's talking about if there was such a process that it would have to go, if it had to go through a state of shtalshlus within us, that like the desire of the foot to walk when I needed something, it would take time. Like I wouldn't be able to instantly do something. So even with the example of somebody burning their hand, chas v'shalom, it pulls away immediately. It's just an instinct. It goes. You don't have to discuss it with yourself. Like, oh, I'm not going to do this. Right? It's something that happens because the body and the soul are very, very connected. The nefesh is very present. And there's a deep connection. Okay. Right? And this is because the body is unified with the soul. Right? And it's so connected that it feels like so, and they're so unified, and the soul expresses itself through the body, like it's as though it actually is the soul. Like it doesn't identify really as separate when it comes to like, it doesn't really identify as separate. We feel like when I say like, this is me, I'm not really talking about my soul. Like I'm pointing at my body here, right? We don't really identify as like, oh yeah, body, soul. Like we don't really identify separately. Like the nefesh is also the nefesh elokis is in the nefesh Bahamas, and the nefesh Bahamas is in the blood. When we talk about life force in the body, that is our chi, our life force, right? And the godly souls within that, and we don't really identify as other than that, right? Okay. So even though the body is a garment of the soul, it's totally one with the soul. Like its identity is completely fused with the soul. So similar to this, we can understand the idea of the sechel and the midos and the nefesh. Shehen gam kein rak b'chinas tikunin levishin nefesh. So even the sechel and the midos, they're really adornments and garments of the soul. And the soul is adorned and enclosed in them, in the sechel and midos, because we're talking about how really the soul is a simple unified light, right? It's not necessarily, we're not saying it's a garment like my thought, speech, and action. And when we look at it within ourselves, I can change. We talk about the garments of the soul, and that was also the whole point in Tanya when it says you can control your thought, speech, and action. These are garments. So I can control as much as obvious. And when you think it's harder to change something that's more internal. Changing my thoughts is harder than changing my action, right? I have to go deeper within myself. Changing my speech is really hard because it's just like, but changing our speech also is harder than changing our actions, because we have to go the deeper into the stuff we have to go. However, they are more. And when we're told in Tanya, their garments, this is what the Elder Rebbe means when he says the garments of the soul are thought, speech, and action. The same way that you can take off your shirt and change it for another one, you can take off that thought and change it for another one. It is entirely, and this is what it means, this is entirely possible for you to take off that thing and change it to another one. Whereas when we talk about, and that the spheros within it, our faculties within it, are closer to the soul, so to speak, meaning that they are more like jewelry for the soul. It's more like an adornment of the soul, meaning it's more like how the soul itself dresses itself up by in these things, in my intellect and in my understanding and in my kindness, how it's actually manifesting itself within me, within my inner world, right? We're not necessarily looking, but what I can, and we don't all have the ability to go right up into there, but we do have the ability to change our garments. Okay. Vehen clay on nefesh, behen v'al yadan po'elas on nefesh, kegarzem b'yad ha'chotzef bo, le'hov b'midas ahava u'lahaskil b'chachma, right? And these are, so they're, and when we talk about that, they're like, we say that they're a clay hanefesh. So the spheros, he describes them as they're a clay hanefesh. They're like an instrument of the soul, right? Versus it being a garment of the soul, it's an instrument of the soul, meaning it. So in the same way, so they're instruments of the soul. That with them, the soul manifests, or it acts like an axe in the hand of a woodchopper. And the example of the soul would be for it to be able to express whatever emotion. So the soul expressed love. Where does it express love? It doesn't always, before it comes into thought, speech, and action, which are more external, right? The soul expresses love, like the emotion of love. That's an expression it's an instrument of the soul to feel that, to experience that, right? And the same way with like when it generates a new idea is through the instrument of chachma, right? But it's not necessarily the soul itself. שכל זה, וכיוצא בזה הוא רק פעולת הנפש בפשטותה שאינן אלא ממנה לזולסה. So all this is only the activities of the soul and its expression, and it's just the way that one soul kind of relates to another, like within the soul itself. And it's funny because we within ourselves, because we're humans and we live in a world with other people, we're within our world and ourselves, we're already divided up because we're always having conversations with another part of myself. So it's another, but it's me. Like, so yeah, we're having relationships with other people, obviously, and that's what we're created, and Baruch Hashem. But even within ourselves, we are experiencing these things because we are created in that way, and we are communicating, especially in this age, probably more than any other time. I feel like we're in some ways we're doing it because like of all the external stimuli, like we're always having conversation with something. Like it's just there's so much stimuli, like there's this part of myself and that part of myself. It's just like we're just and I think it's part of also this like coming out of fragmentation and into like our more unified state. It doesn't mean that we have parts, but really we are the simple. It's not that when we're in a place of alignment and we're more like, and there's more, but when you come to a place where you have more silence in yourself and there's more stillness in yourself, and that's when you can really like, you get those moments of clarity, like things like you'll hear, like the godly voice doesn't yell. It's usually the animal soul is the one that's more loud. The godly soul is that still small voice within us. And when we're in a place or moment of alignment, like and it's just like, and it can wait forever. Like it's not pressure, it's just kind of like there. And it's just like, we hop it and we get it. And I think part of that is like coming from this place of fragmentation into this place of unity, and not unity that doesn't have all of these, and it's not divisive, like, because when we're talking about the spheros and they have different energies and different texture, but we're talking about them as adornment, as jewelry, as something that expresses and shows off what the soul is more than it, because otherwise it can't really express itself or reveal itself. So in the spheros, this is what it does. And what does jewelry do? It beautifies, right? It really, it enhances. Jewelry specifically enhances, where clothes, as much as they can reveal our personality and reveal certain things, really like jewelry, the sole purpose of it is to enhance, is to beautify, is to adorn. It's not, versus a garment has more of a dual purpose. Okay, but the soul itself is transcendent, beyond any limitation and any levels. Because the intellect and emotion, they undergo changes, and the soul itself doesn't undergo change. Right? Because the emotions exist both in a immature state, hotness or godless, right? It says like the small one goes after small things. And so you say literally a small child, like if you offer a small child like $100 bill and 5 $1 bills, they're gonna be like, whoa, there's 5 of that. That's amazing. I'll take the 5 $1 bills, because they don't know better. And kids go after, it's very simple, right? It's very small. But also within ourselves, when we're in a state of katnas, where little things are gonna set us off, right? And we can't really think about things at a grander picture. Like we can become focused on something that's like, right, the most easily graspable thing that I can pick on, that's the thing that I'm so focused on, right? Because we're in a state of katnus. But that part of ourselves, like, and that's what he's saying, the intellect and emotion, it changes, right? It's not the essence of who we are. Sometimes we get stuck identifying. I think one of the points of this mimer is a like very deep mimer, and it really is a fundamental one in terms of understanding Kabbalah and Chassidus, because it breaks it down quite a bit. But one of the things is also understanding, like, sometimes we identify so much with this part of ourselves, the spiritual part of ourselves, I guess, because it's so close. It's very close to who we are. Not necessarily, it's not our thought. It's not our speech. It's not our action. It's something deeper than that. But that still is also subject to change. That still could also be expanded. That still can also move from a place of contraction to expansion, because it's not actually the soul itself. Like, I can grow up and wear a more sophisticated piece of jewelry. I'm not stuck with like the little studs that I wore to get my ears pierced when I was a kid. Like, so as much as the core self doesn't change. It's the same. It's that same. And that's also the thing, like, of a child, a baby. Their mitos, they're not developed that they could communicate for themselves or anything. What is like one of the joys of like looking at a baby is like, this is pure core person. Like, you see a little baby, like that is the core of who that person is. They're like, there's such a purity there, and there's such a beauty there in a child. Like, and that's like, and that core person actually stays the whole time, right? And then we develop these other things, but the mitos, so as much as they're a closer part of us, they do change, and we do grow, and we do evolve, and we do expand. So all of this time, like, in all of our faculties also, like, we continue to age and mature, but the essence of the soul, this whole even idea of maturing, it's not even the essence of the soul. It's just the core is just there the whole time. Right? All of this, none of this applies to the essence of the soul itself. Because it's not subject to any change at all. And that part of the soul doesn't receive any change from the happenings of the body, what happens. So, and this also is that quintessential point that no matter what we go through and no matter what's going on, is completely pure and completely whole and completely untouched. So as much as we can sometimes feel in a place of, and I think it's also one of the big points in the mimer is like, this mimer goes so deep in explaining things in such a, like, really deep things in a very nuanced way. But however, and like, how much time, I don't know how much time like a person has to be able to think about these things very deeply. But what he's saying is the essence of the soul is completely, it's always there. It's as much intact as much a person could be the great, like, can be understanding every nook and cranny of it and totally involved in it and totally engaged in it. And that's great, because that can enhance how they experience some sort of aspects of their relationship with Hashem, with themselves. But it doesn't really affect the core itself is the same, whether there's the understanding or not, whether there's the time to engage or not. That essential core remains unchanged and completely intact and completely united, because that, like, it's literally a piece of Hashem. There's nothing that can be done to affect that essential core, that essential point of unity. So, and the Alter Rebbe went on great length to explain this because of this pasuk, the Adina, like, okay, I'm going to go down and see, like, what does this mean? Hashem is going down, like he knows everything. It's only him. But really, though, the point is really the relationship, right? And so to do that, let's understand a little bit of what that means. But let's not forget that really, through all of this contraction and revelation, and whether it's revelation or concealment, because we say even revelation is Hashem concealing himself for us to be able to experience that revelation, right? Really, the whole point is really that essential core, that essential point of connection, that essential point of unity, that unchanging core that really remains completely intact. And understanding these things just the same way with a person, when we have a good friend and when we know more about them, and some people, when a close friend will allow you more to know more about them in a more vulnerable way, just because of the closeness of the relationship, right? And like, when we know people, they'll share more about themselves with us, and when we know that, we're closer to them, we love them more. So in the same way, like, when we break apart these ideas and this understanding of Hashem, it helps us appreciate a little more. I mean, it's like there's a lot of information this night, which is very, very packed, but it helps us appreciate and understand a little more. And then also, even like when we walk away and this kind of think within ourselves, I think like, and when we think about ourselves, I think sometimes we think that we either get stuck in thinking like, I can't change my internal self. Like I can't change my internal self, but I've changed so much that I'm tainted at my core. Like it's like where the opposite is true. Like we can change our internal world. We can change our internal dialogue. We can expand our emotions. We can expand our experience. And no matter how contracted or expanded we are, our internal core always remains the same. It's never changing, and it can never be tainted or broken, or it's always completely whole, and it can't be added to, right? Like it's completely 100%. Like, and that's like also the thing with it, accessing the Mashiach now. We have access to step into these points now. Now we have more than ever. We have actually so many kohos now to really just also like kind of lechatchila ribber and like hop into that geula frequency, which we've really been gifted that by previous generations and all of our avoda. And I think there was a story where one person had asked the Rebbe, like, how can you say that? Like, what did I do to earn it? Like, maybe my ancestors did. And the Rebbe was like, well, who said that you didn't in a previous life? Like, so we're not just standing on the shoulders of generations before us. We're standing on the shoulders of our own avoda, whether in this life or other lifetimes, that we have more access now. In some ways, as much as it can seem that it's more concealed, nowadays we actually have more access now to this point within us that kind of than ever before in a lot of ways, because we're in these very, very special times. So Chaim, I don't think we're going to go further today because it's getting a little late and there's a lot more. And yeah, and if anybody wants to go through, there's amazing there's amazing things on this, on the details of this. We don't really have so much time to get into that. But anyway, thanks, guys. Hanging in there. And does anybody have any takeaways?
Yes, I have a takeaway.
Hi, Rivka.
Hi. Yeah, so my takeaway is just appreciating how much information you're able to give over in such a short period of time. And then for me to be able to really listen to it and be able to get out of it things that are applicable in everyday life, and that apply to so many different challenges or struggles, whether it be XYZ, you know what I'm saying? It's just it's a universal truth of Hashem and His love, and how you bring it down is just you talk fast, but it's okay because every word that you say is so great. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hashem, thanks. Thanks for sharing a lot of information. I was like, how am I going to teach? How am I going to teach this? Right? This is very thank you.
Actually, Adina.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't, I don't know if it's okay to ask this or not, I'll find out, but maybe there is a way to summarize, you really get, it was a lot, and I was kind of on a self-care walk and really just listening, but and I find the garments, but I do find it was, in terms of me having a takeaway, I think the garment, I was trying to get understanding of the distinction between Like the jewelry is an example of adornment, and the garment, as in revealing to conceal, like, because we think about garments of our, like
Well,
our speech is a garment. Like I wouldn't mind a little bit more clarity, and that would help me with a really clear takeaway. Thank you.
okay, yeah, thanks. So so a garment, like generally, like, or we call it a lavush, but it could also be like a beged. Beged is specifically meaning a garment that conceals, right? But a garment, really, the point of a garment is actually to cover, to really, and so as much as sometimes we'll wear something because we feel like we feel like we are revealing a part of ourselves in it, we are actually we are physically actually covering up parts of our body, like physically. So the idea of a garment is really that it covers. So even when we talk about our thought, speech, and action, why do we talk about that as garments? Because in order for me to have a thought, I'm actually covering, like, I actually am concealing first of all, it is concealing other faculties in me for it to be just a clear thought, but also it's it itself is a concealment. Like the thought that I have in my machshava, like not in my intuition, I'm talking about like in my thought, is a condensed version of something. It is concealed. It is a condensed version of something also that's higher than itself, but it also is meaning it does conceal though the soul in order for me to have that. And so we can see that, like when we think about the difference between thought and speech, I can have something like really clear in my head, and then I go to speak it, and I'm like, it's not the same. Like it was clear there because speech is even further concealed from it's a further form of concealment. So sometimes we can understand something in a picture in our mind, but it takes several words to express it to another, or even to ourselves. When we want to like discuss something in our minds to ourselves, when we explain it, there's many more words because it's the concealment. It's more concealed there. Does that make sense? And so like an action also. So as much as we say action can reach the highest place, though, it's also like the essence of what it says essence can be revealed in action, but it's more distance, more removed. You can do an action without even having the initial thought with you. That like you can have a thought like, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that, I'm inspired to do that. By the time you do the action, you might not even be inspired or feel it anymore. Like it's just like you just decided to do it, and so you're doing it. And like could be you're giving to a person, the person that you needed to give to, they received it, so like the action still counts. It's amazing, but like your heart might not be in it, you might not be totally there in it. So like in terms of like garments are, so we want to the entire, we want to take control, ownership of those garments. We not want to use them for the purpose of to make them vehicles for Hashem. We want to make them vehicles for the godly soul to be able to express itself. But the garment itself is something that conceals, versus the jewelry, like the adornment, is really the sole purpose of jewelry is really to reveal, right? Or think of like makeup. Like the purpose of makeup is actually to highlight what's really there. I'm just gonna make it a little more beautiful so people notice it. Like versus, does that distinguish? Does that make sense? The idea in like
I think it does. I think it just challenges me to consider these beautiful ideas on a much deeper level. Like the perfect example is like you have an idea, you're so like after the Gula wife group coaching call yesterday, like it was very clear in my mind what my thoughts were, but I saw how hard that is to like, yeah, how is my speech or my thoughts, my actions, are they revealing or are they concealing? Like, I just think that's just such a great line of curiosity to have. Like, what am I trying to reveal? What am I actually, like, what's my intention? What's my kavanah? And then could I ask, like, how does that relate to, was there a connection between that idea and Lot or Saddam?
Yeah, so this comes from, this mimer comes up because of one little line in the parsha where Hashem says, not like, I'm gonna go down. Like it's right when Hashem's going to judge the city of Sodom, he says, I'm gonna go down and judge the city. he says to himself, or it says in the text. And so the Alter Rebbe asks the question, that what does that mean? Like, why Hashem knows what's going on. He needs to go down and see what's going on. What there, like, he is the whole story. He knows the whole story. What does that mean? He has to go down. So the Alter Rebbe is like, it's a perfect opportunity to let's just understand. let's understand godliness a little bit. But it also, like, for
Thank you.
yeah, thanks so much. Like, for me, my takeaway for it a lot is, I mean, I guess I said a little bit, is like, and there's like tons of things in here. Like, maybe one of them is that I really would like to spend more time learning Chassidus, but also that, but for me, myself, like, I think that sometimes I get stuck in that place of thinking like kind of giving up on that core. I'll feel in a funky place and giving up on the fact that that core is completely there and unchanged. And like, however best I felt, however many minutes ago, hours ago, years ago, whatever, I am still that same person. It's still there. But, and that wasn't, and like, and also like, even that wasn't like sometimes it's like we get stuck in thinking the part that changed, that's the part that's permanent, and the part that's permanent is the part that could change, right? Like, I'm not far in this way like I was then. I've clearly I've like, am not the same person, and clearly I'll never be, like, sometimes I get stuck, and like knowing that like that core is still, like, all of those other things, no matter like the highs and lows, like all of those things, they're subject to change. Their nature is to be subject to change. The midos are flowing, moving energies. It's energy. Energy moves. That's what it does, right? So it's like all that stuff changes. Even if I'm in a place where I feel like I'm not really myself and I've lost myself, that essential self is always there. And that part of me that feels icky is actually not always there. So like, it's kind of like a perspective, and also, and it's an empowerment that we can, we can align ourselves, like we can. And also like I think sometimes like also that getting stuck, yeah, like it is important, our thought and speech and action, but recognizing there's also so much, which are obviously important to express what's there, but even like going deeper, and that like even the other parts of ourselves, right, that can always be elevated and lifted up. And that's also the thing with the thought, speech, and action, they're external, but like we said, like if I'm totally dehydrated and have a huge headache and like can't really deal with anybody, like I don't have to like go to my core and figure that. I can like drink a cup of water. Like the thought, speech, and action can elevate. Like I don't necessarily have to go to the deepest place to come back to that feeling of essential core. It could just sometimes be that we have to work on the most external thing. Like it doesn't always have to be as dramatic as it seems. I don't know if that was the Alter Rebbe's intention, but that's like some of my takeaways.
Those are great takeaways. Thank you. And thank you, Hannah, for what you just posted. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So great to see Trish. Hi, Trish. Great to see everyone. It's a very special guest today here. Have Trisha on.
Hi, Trish. You want to share? Did you want to share a takeaway?
I was on mute because I've got my granddog here who has been barking to protect me, supposedly from the mailman, etc. Not much, because I really, I'm glad I was able to be with you guys. But I think the main takeaway for me is putting into a perspective of what does clothing us mean? What is, wearing literally clothes, or a facade, or a way to negotiate with the world on so many different levels. And the jewelry thing struck home, because I have lots of things I've collected over the years. And what does it mean when you wear them? And one of my grandkids always, when we're on Zoom, he always notices. One of his sisters never notices. I mean, never, expresses anything. And so, and what are we communicating with? And how are we relating to the world? How are we relating to God? or relating to the weather? What does it mean? And it put different perspectives on it, and I really enjoyed the discussion.
Baruch Hashem. Thanks so much for sharing. It's so good to see you.
Thank
How
you.
many- Yeah, it's really like also like knowing that we can choose it. And also, I think like another thing is like those, when we exercise, like those are our tools to relate with the world around us, right? And we kind of get to tweak and choose and how we show up there, right?
Right. And also whether, what's our intentionality? Is it to enhance how we feel so we are better people, are filling, our role in life? Are we trying to dazzle? Are we trying to impress? How should we use those things, because otherwise we're all wearing the same thing, depending upon season. And that's not how, and we don't do that. And how also are we respectful of so many things of waste and sustainability and comfort? I mean, yeah, there's so many things to think about, which a lot of times we just don't, because we just grab something from our closet. But you brought out for me the intentionality of it.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's important how we approach and our awareness for sure. Chana, we have two Chanas, so whichever one wants to share, really. Oh, Sarah Root,
Yes,
you're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Yeah. Do you want me to mute?
No, do you want to
I can
share?
mute.
I
I
want
want
to
to
know if you're
say, I just felt hungry, thirsty, and tired. If a person's hungry, thirsty, or tired, you better just let them alone,
yes.
or satisfy one or two of those three things. They can relate to the world around them or the people around them, because I know, especially if I'm tired, I'm dysregulated. I'm not the usual relaxed, if ever, relaxed person. So it's very important to take care of the body. And so you take care of the body, covering it with clothing, but the clothing changes from one season to another. Sometimes it's okay to just be wearing a shirt, and sometimes it needs to be something other than that in order to take care of the body. So my takeaway is to take better care of my body with the self-care routine,
Amazing.
and feed it and water it. It feels like when I'm tired, I think, how much water did I drink? You see that plant over there, not yours, Hannah. That plant over there, it hasn't had any water, so it's droopy. So drink water, and then you won't be droopy. So try to drink more water the last couple of days, and I think I feel a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I feel a difference, even in Eretz Yisrael when it's not Tammuz and Av hotness. It's still
It's dry.
in
Yeah.
the desert, I guess.
Yeah.
You have to drink.
Yeah. Water.
So
Yeah. I love that's your
that's the
takeaway.
take. Listening to you is like drinking from a very special container. What can I say? What can I call it? Very special vase or container of water or whatever, like a beautiful stream, like a beautiful stream flowing and flowing, just flows from you. Like,
Thanks.
well, this girl, this woman, how does she know all this? How does she have time to pack all this into beautiful, marvelous brain? A marvelous soul. Thank you, Adina. It's such a
Yeah,
joy to listen. To listen, even if you don't understand any of it, it's just a joy to listen and
Well,
witness the beauty of the Chassidus that you give us. Thank you.
thank you. I love your takeaway because that was also like one of my big takeaways is also like sometimes I'll try to go, like, you don't have to necessarily go to the most internal place to get the biggest results. Sometimes it really is just like, take care of your body, like a small, like, take care of your body, take care of what's right in front of me and allow the other
Yeah.
thing to get through. Yeah. And it's
In
really,
front of me. Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
tend to,
Thank
like,
you.
yeah, we tend to like think like, okay, well, more internal, that's like better and deeper. That's where I need to, like, not all work needs to be so hard, which is actually really in line. Like this parsha is all about the nisayon, the test of Abraham. Like we speak about we speak about tests versus berurim. Like berurim means you have to like go into it, figure it out, get out the crux of whatever. And nisayon is actually something that like it elevates you, like you're riding at, you're going over it. You don't necessarily go in and figure everything out, but it does bring out a deep part of you, right? And so not everything has to go and fix is really that cup of water or whatever it is. Like we need to be able to go with know what's needed of us at the time and go with that. We don't necessarily have to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Chana. One of the Chanas.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the class. I am drinking them up each week. I feel as though it's not an easy chapter, Baruch Hashem. And somehow the message that I heard so many years ago, live according to the times, meaning live according to the Parsha of the week. And I always thought, that sounds so good. 1 year I'm going to get on board with that. And this is the year. And I feel like each Parsha, your nugget for Parshas Noach literally kept my head above water. And the rest of me working on the elevation from the flood that was going on. It was an insane week, crazy, crazy week. Last week as well. Just to let go and go to, where is it? I have it here still. Go to the you that I will show you. Leave who you think you are. Allow me to take you to who you actually are. And I saw so many things open up and fall off, even as this week is starting. So your opening was it kind of like the first course, and I got full on it. So I'm gonna have to listen to the second course. When you actually got into was it Mimer? I think it's a Mimer, not a Sikha.
Yeah, it's a Mimer. This is Torah Or, so it's the Alter Rebbe's Mimer. They're very Torah Or. They're very jam packed. There's lots of
Beautiful. It's
very
beautiful.
deep.
So the piece that I got is take the past. So I couldn't write down what you had said because I come straight from the pool to the class. So I was getting dressed and like, is this okay? You know, this is words of Torah. I had to do it very carefully. I couldn't write it all down. Take the past and basically season your life to bring out the richness rather than become like Lot's wife who brought out the bitterness. So I'm a deep, slow learner. So that's going to sit with me all week.
That's great.
Especially
Yeah.
I'm actually traveling back to where I grew up this week. So like
Oh,
it's
wow.
really living, of course. Yeah, my sister and I are getting together and it should be wonderful. But there's yes, that's such a truth that Hashem like the way you facet a diamond, like you break off pieces of it, is how he faceted each of his gems.
Yeah.
not comfortable. The diamond cries and shrieks and pieces fall off, but it becomes valuable. I heard this from Israel Tauber many years ago. I thought it was brilliant. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
And yes, these are to become the women that we are, and that in that richness. But you said it so beautifully. I loved Sarah Ruth's, if they're hungry, thirsty, or tired, leave them alone. That was so smart, such wisdom. I wrote that one down too. And no matter what's going on, we are still whole and pure. Which made me realize, well, no matter what's going on, our husband is also still whole and pure, which means also that the us together, the two halves of the soul, wow, that's still whole and pure. And that's such a beacon of hope shining through under sometimes a lot of laundry, garbage, whatever it is, heaped on top of that light. So it's under there, because this is Hashem's plan. So those are my nuggets from today. And I thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I love it. Also, like the parts of it, like we're both like whole and pure, and also all of those other stuff that like gets in the way, because like that whole pure core has to come down, like has to manifest in other ways for us to be able to relate with each other. Like it was just two cores, there's no relationship. It's really actually through all the messiness, like that the actual relationship gets revealed. So sometimes it's just good to remember that pure core is there, and all the somehow all like that really the relationship happens through all of those, all the stuff. And when we focus on that core, yeah.
Actually, Rabbi Talbert was really saying you take two ugly stones, which are diamonds in the raw, and when they bang together,
Brings
that's the only way to cut a diamond. And it fall off, it hurts and it cries, but you end up with two valuable diamonds, which is what you were saying. So,
that's beautiful. Really
thank
beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. Those are beautiful takeaways. Thanks for sharing. Chana Margulies.
You're so loyal. How do you know I wanted to share my takeaway? I want to just say thank you everyone for all your takeaways. It really is part of the class. And everyone's cameras on. It's nice to see you guys. I feel like we're like in a Shabbaton. We just see each other like every other day on Zoom. It's fun. Baruch Hashem. So my takeaway is I love that we brought it back to the low, because I totally forgot about
Happened. I can't hear you. You froze? Wait.
I wait for every year to now. It's one of. I think it's because where I am in the house. I went farther away from the Wi-Fi. I go closer to the source of connection. The Wi-Fi. Okay, so yeah, this Devar Torah about low was. I feel like I wait for that every year for someone to remind me, like, don't become a pillar of salt, and just like that permission of like all your life's experiences and your mess ups and your confusion. It's supposed to add the flavor. I think for me, that's like the desire to help others. Like this woman wrote this really cool book. Like she lives near a spot. Like, things people didn't tell me or something. Like all of her hard-earned lessons in life. And she like wrote this book. Like not everyone has to experience this. And like I just love that. I feel like it's true. Like all of our like salty moments is like actually what motivates us to make the whole dish. It's like I'm gonna go create something out of this. I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna share this, or I'm gonna bring this to Hashem. Even as like a form of creativity, and just that
like the salt, like the salty thing, like instead of looking back, look forward. And what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about.
Like,
Sorry, they didn't know that I wasn't on mute. But like what you're saying is literally. Evan, can I introduce you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so live from small town Ontario, we have Adina
Hi.
from Israel visiting, and we're just
No
talking about
way.
stuff. And it's,
To the
and
Torah class, bringing it with my
I just
mom. Great.
how perfect what you're saying, like like living with the times, with the parsha, how it just fits perfectly with what we're talking about. Don't look backwards, look forward. Like take what you've learned and grow with it. So many takeaways.
Wait, is this our new woofer on the farm?
Yeah.
Wait, can I see her? Hi. Nice to meet you.
That's kind of
Prima
special.
Varina. What's your name?
Ma,
What?
Ma?
Efren,
can't hear you.
what's your name?
My name is Adva.
Adva, Nemod. Adva came to help my parents on their farm. That's incredible. Thank you for doing what I should be doing. You're wonderful. That's great.
Oh, did you have to chase after us?
Yeah,
And I'm so sorry.
I figured you could take these.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Beautiful. We have Hannah Parnassa for you from Fort Perry. This is Anne.
The main buyers of
Thank
jumping
you.
puddles
Thank you.
are people of Port Perry, Ontario, little farm town. That's hysterical. I love my $20 from jumping in puddles from middle of nowhere. That's fun. Thank you, Hashem. See? Okay, so that's another takeaway. Hashem has many ways of providing. But yeah, I guess just that place about jewelry. I had to like stop myself from making like a great Instagram post based on your class. I'm like, I'm just gonna listen right now, but I have it planned. Just like that image of like that jewelry, like those are my thought, speech, and action. I never heard it expressed like this before, that our thought, speech, and action are jewelry. And like when I put on my jewelry, it's such a fun moment for me. Like I have it like on my dresser next to my sheitel, and it's like, I don't put it on just like every day. It's like, I'm going to go on Zoom now, or I'm going to leave the house now. It's like this moment, like preparing myself to be outwards. And it really is like this reminding myself of like, I want to be fun and I want to show up married with my ring on my finger. And I want to put on like my necklace that's a little bit heavier, like this necklace my husband got me. Like, it's like, yes, I want to be queen-like. And it really is this like calling out of inner qualities. And I think it's so cool that the spheros are connected to jewelry, because of course Hashem doesn't want us to dive into the spheros, because like how rude. Hashem's like, that's just my jewelry. Like, notice me. Like you said, like it's an invitation to notice what's there.
right.
And I feel like that's what I'm doing with jewelry. If I'm trying to remind myself what's there, there's this sparkly, fun version of me that's about to now go on Zoom, or it's about to go out of the house. Like, it's like trying to bring out those things. And I feel like my main like practical takeaway was just have so much fun with thought, speech, and action. Like jewelry is such a fun, so not essential. It's just like I mean, for some it is, but for me, it's just like this really fun thing. It's almost like playing dress up, and like you could just have fun with it. And like there's costume jewelry and there's real jewelry, and just like let my mind be like bejeweled. Like, what are my funnest, most beautiful thoughts? Take them out, like wear them. Like, even like with voice, like there's so much to do. You could talk slower, you could talk faster. There's tone, there's pitch, like the way I talk to myself when no one's around, like, and like you're saying, like action, like even if you really got nothing going on inside, like that's worthwhile. Like my actions can make my whole house look wonderful. And like, that's great. And just like being able to like enjoy my thought, speech, and action as like this gift from Hashem as jewelry. And like have like creativity and curiosity and like enjoyment there, versus like I have to think the perfect thoughts and say the perfect thing and show up perfectly. Like, no, it's jewelry. Like, have fun. Thanks, Adina.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, we get to change them. Like it's how we like it's well, like yeah, the clothing. Well, it's not suggesting my clothing, but it does say they're jewelry at some points. But yeah, like you can change them.
That's what I heard.
Fine, it's the same. Whatever. It did say that at one point, I think. But
watch the recording.
it's just,
I'm
yeah.
quoting.
Yeah, it's the same idea. But yeah, we could have fun with them and change them, and we're not stuck. And I think that's a lot of the thing also, like with our thought patterns, sometimes we get stuck. And when we realize like, this is just like, I can change this, I can choose this, I can have fun with this, I can I use it like I'm gonna enhance myself. Like, yeah. So I think the point is the same, and I love what you said.
And I just want to make a shout out to like I think we could all be inspired by what my mom was doing. Like she didn't realize she wasn't on mute, but she went to see the next Jew she saw. She's like in the middle of nowhere, but the next Jew she saw, she went and told her the takeaway from the class. And so know Aleph and teach Aleph. And so I just want to invite anyone to, if it's fit for them, if you meet someone along your day today or tomorrow, to share anything you took from this. And you never know how a little Torah can illuminate. Like we were so blessed with this whole hour to like luxuriate. For some people, it's just like the Dvar Torah on the sidewalk. So yeah, thanks for getting to do our takeaways. So we have something to know we have in our pocket.
Yeah, it adds a lot to your everybody's also. So thank you. It adds so much to it because that's really the point of Chassidus is how it affects us and like how it relates to us is really bringing it down. So thanks everybody for sharing.
Sorry.
It wasn't funny. Why did I say something wrong?
No, I have to go look up if it's actually jewelry or not now. I'm gonna enjoy that. Either way,
It's great. Send you the link.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adina. You're the best. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good
Thanks.
job.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbos.
Ready for dancing?
Oh yeah, see you guys.
Dancing.
We're still on camp mode. We'll see you guys on Friday. It was at a chef. Exactly. See you guys on Friday. I love it.
Okay.